Thank you guys so much. Guys and gals, I guess you could say. Back in my waitressing days, they were like, don't say you guys. Because back then it wasn't accepted. They said, so that's when I started saying y'all. And then people go, what? What state are you from? I'm like, I'm from California. But I adopted that habit long ago because there were lots of older people who came into the restaurant that I worked at, and they were super offended when somebody came up to the table and said, hi, you guys. They didn't like that.
Excuse me.
We had to change that. Anyways, but I'm so excited to be with you guys and talk to you about, well, like I said, I just said this a second ago, but the recording wasn't going. Make sure that you have something to write with. If you are catching the recording and you're not able to take notes, just table this for later when you're home and you're able to take notes. Of course, I'm going to keep it short because that's always my goal with you. But I've been thinking a lot. Gosh, I don't even know how to begin to teach you any of the stuff that's in this book. Brendon Burchard, I love this man so much. He is definitely a mentor from afar. I've seen him speak probably a dozen times. I've been to a couple of his events live. They're intense. This book it delivers so much in so many ways. And one of the things that I love about it is that he really, really, really just zeroes in on the importance of your habits and how your habits truly determine how far you get in life. So this is called High Performance Habits because he talks about six habits that pretty much all high performers have. They just have in common. And I'd like to say that maybe it's innate, but I don't think so. I think these are learned habits. And that's what's so cool. It's like what separates people who succeed from those who don't. Anyways, but he talks in great detail. The very first habit is about clarity. And so tonight, I hope to bring you some clarity. We're not going to talk about that book, but I do have a quote that hopefully I'll get to toward the end because I want to bring you some clarity. And also want to bring up, if you are doing the May push and you have not yet posted your business activity tracker from this last week, please do so. It's in the album and Team Fit Finances. I know that the link didn't work. I don't know what's going on in that messenger thread thing, but lots of stuff doesn't work. It's kind of buggy. That's okay. But if you just go into Team Fit Finances, you can upload your business activity tracker, whatever tracking tool that you use. Last I checked, Kara had done it, Yulia, shout out Madison and Melody, and myself. So that's last I checked this afternoon. So if you've done it since then, good. Thank you. Pretty, ugly, whatever, do it because it's part of creating those good, positive habits. And so just do it. Trust me on this. You cannot have a business if you have zero knowledge of what you're actually doing in your business. Okay? Oh, good, Magda. Thank you. And Betty, I didn't see yours, but it's very possible. So I'll have to check. So good job. Thank you, guys. I believe you. And thank you, Sherry, too. I believe you that you did. So with that being said, I went to went back to what you guys are struggling with. A couple people said sales and a couple people said inviting. And that hit me on, okay, inviting, knowing what to say, having enough people, but like each one. So I went back to my favorite all-time sales book, The Psychology of Selling, Brian Tracy, which I've read a couple times through, and highlighted the heck out of this. And I went back through it and I just started thumbing through it and going, what can I truly, truly share that's going to bring so much value to you guys tonight? So here we go. Get ready. Hold on to your butt. We're going. One of the things he says is this. So I'm going to open with this quote. It says, when you keep accurate records day by day and month by month, you will soon be able to predict with accuracy exactly what you have to do each day and each week to achieve monthly and annual goals. So he said this immediately after talking about, okay, well, what are your sales goals? And most people are oblivious to that, especially when if you're brand new to business, you're like, I don't know what my sales goals are. Here's how you break that down. You figure out how much money do you want / need to make. If you want to quit your job, okay, well, what do you really, honestly, truly need to make in order to make that happen? Okay. So having a concrete answer is going to give you something to aim at. So he said this immediately after that, because a lot of people don't know how to break down, well, but if sales is a numbers game, it's like, I'm not fully in control. It's not a direct correlation of I put in this much time and this is how much I get out of it. The point is, he's saying, yes, it is a direct correlation, but you need to figure out what that is. And I'll tell you right now, in network marketing, you're going to have to follow up with the same person 10 times, typically, before they make a buying decision. In addition to that, at 1 out of every 10 will say yes to you, okay? 1 out of every 30, probably for the business opportunity. So inviting is the key to your survival in this business. But the thing is, though, the longer you do this, the better you get at it. So just like playing baseball, I don't know what the exact term is or whatever, like batting average, But like, I think if the guy hits 3 out of 10, I mean, in any other world, that would be a complete failure, right? But if he hits 3 out of 10, he's like a multimillionaire. So in this game, completely average, amateur, you're probably going to get like 1 out of 20, but you must be doing the follow-ups. And I think even when we had Eric, oh man, I forgot his last name, from Team Z, when he presented for us and he talked about how most people give up after the second or third invitation. Well, he's like, I wish I had their list, you know? And that's honestly what we're doing by just throwing out invitations and not following up or not creating that relationship with people, is we're just priming the pump for somebody else to come along. And all of a sudden, the 10th time that they hear something, they're ready. Okay. So we need to be able to determine with accuracy what that's going to be in order to hit your sales goals. The only way for you to do that is for you to be tracking your business every single day. And I get it. I mean, there are some days, I've had some weeks where I went, oh my gosh, I've hardly tracked anything. And I spent an hour looking backwards on my social media just because I didn't want to not send my business activity tracker to my success team. I'm like, oh, did I do that day? Oh yeah. Okay. Well, how many invites did I do? And honestly, I've had weeks like that where my kids are sick or something, and I was literally just like working from my phone in between everything happening. So I've had to do that, but that's really critical and key. So what is really cool about that is the more you track, the more you're going to know what your personal track record is, the more you'll be able to know, okay, who do I truly need to follow up with? That's why programs like Team Z or Streak are so critical to use, because they help you stay on track and accountable to following up with those people. Even if it's just a, hey, I haven't heard from you in a while. How are you? Okay. So that's going to continue to build that business. So here we go. We can't control whether people say yes or not. We can't. But there are a number of things, many things that we can control in the sales process that will determine whether or not you're going to succeed or fail at this whole thing. Okay. So number one, what can you control? Your sales activities that you can control: invitations, follow-ups, contacts, etc. Your mindset through personal development, training, and obviously how, your time. Okay. So your time, how much time you put into this or how much time you put into anything. You can control those things and those things alone. Whether or not they decide to do business with you, that's on them. The more you, we did a couple weeks ago, crafting your scripts, talking to people, invitations. What do you say? How do you say it? You know how many times I've probably rewritten my invitation script? It's probably been thousands, because I've been doing this for 10 years. And in the beginning, I rewrote it every single time. And you know what? All of a sudden, I started noticing when people would react, and I started looking at, and I started rereading and thinking, okay, well, knowing what I know now through the trainings that I've had through, various network marketing experts and whatnot, how is this really going to sit with somebody? Is this focused on the customer enough? So you have to constantly change and reinvent and create and, just continue to work on that. there's not a magic wand or anything, but eventually you're going to find the voice that speaks to your people. If you didn't watch the one about creating your follow-up script, go back and watch that from a couple weeks ago. I think that will be helpful for you. And I'm still drafting and creating and tweaking just a little bit. Like, okay, well, this one's not converting as much. I'm getting a lot of responses, but then they kind of fall off. And so at that point, then I'm like, okay, what do I need to fix about that part of my script? And so that's kind of where I'm at right now. Because right now, where I'm losing people is a 12-minute video, which I think is amazing, and they need to watch it. But then they're not, most people, at least 50% are not coming back after that. So I need to figure out how to change that. Okay. What can you control? You can control, number one, your invitations, your tracking, your time, your mindset. We're going to talk a lot about mindset because your subconscious mind is so important. So I'm going to read another quote here. I wrote down just page 49. It was too long for me to write. Okay, so let's talk about how to control your subconscious mind, because you do have the control over it. Your subconscious mind is neutral. It's like clay. You can shape it in any way you want. Your subconscious does not think or decide. It merely obeys your mental commands. When you take full control of your conscious mind and discipline yourself to think and talk about only the things that you want, you send clear commands to your subconscious mind to give you thoughts, words, and actions that will make you successful. And that's why a lot of high performers, Damon John from Shark Tank, creator of FUBU and investor in many, many companies, he says every night before he goes to bed, he writes out his top 5 goals because he wants to marinate on those every single night. Last thing he thinks about. So all night long, his subconscious mind is working on ways to solve those issues and to get him to where he wants to go with those goals. So I'm going to give you a quick little formula, and this is where you're going to start writing. Number 1, so we're going to talk about goal setting because this is a critical and crucial part of what we do. We must set goals. So I want you to write out 5 goals that you have for this business. Don't think too hard. Just write them down. 5 goals you have for this business. The first 4 came really easy for me. Okay. That's part 1. Everybody got their 5? Okay. Next, I want you to add a deadline to each of those goals. So just put a deadline next to it if you haven't done so already. Okay, next, I want you to write it out in as if you have done that. So here's a for instance. Um, I will be 10-star by October, okay, of this year. Stuff like that. So write it out, write each goal out in the present tense. I will, or I have, or I do this, okay? Okay, now I have another fun one for you to do. You're just going to do 3, but I want you to write out in this form, okay, with the deadline and with the present tense, or I will, or I have, or whatever. I want you to give yourself 3 financial goals. So I am debt free by X date. I will buy a house by this time, or I am a homeowner by blah, 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 blah. So go ahead, 3 financial goals for yourself. Maybe it's just you want to go on a vacation or buy like an expensive car, whatever it is. All right. Good stuff. Let your subconscious mind marinate on that. You know what I mean? Like it's so easy not to do this type of activity, but it is so incredibly important to us. So however you want to write it, if you want to rewrite it, Brian Tracy says, right, he says like having 1 or 2 goals is good, but it doesn't keep you in the game. So that's why I aimed for 5 and we went a little bit more. He says he suggests you write out 100 insane, amazing goals that you have for your life, your friends, like everything, anything and everything you could possibly think of, because and actually Brendan Burchard calls this why stacking, because the more reasons you have to be successful at this, the greater your foundation, and the less you're going to give up on yourself when things get tough, and you're just not going to accept that. You're not going to accept BS excuses that we give ourselves, okay? And we give ourselves excuses. If you don't believe me, read The Magic of Thinking Big by David Schwartz. Excusitis is a real thing. You'll know if somebody has it if you have a conversation with them, is like, well, I would, but I could, but well, I'm not that, you know what I'm saying? You understand what I'm saying. Like if every reason is external from you and it's never about like, well, I just haven't figured it out yet. Then there's something going on there. Okay, so maybe you got to get into some therapy or something, but there's something going on there. Here's a funny story. So back in my earlier years working for Shalene, the very first Camp Turbo, because what it was called initially. It's called Camp Turbo, and I think there was only like 500 people there or something. It was kind of small, but the very first one, she said to me that virtually what she wanted to have was a circus, like a circus inside the hotel. And that's how she's like, and back then it wasn't that common that you would see these things like Cirque du Soleil and things like that. But she goes, I want you to find people that can suspend from the ceiling and like spin around on these ropes and like with these big hoops. And I had never even seen a Cirque du Soleil performance, and I was just like, what is she talking about? So I did a little research, but all along I'm thinking, there's no way that we're ever going to this is not going to happen. Like, this is not going to happen. And so I did a little bit of research, and then we had our next camp meeting, and she's like, how's that going? Like, did you find the performers? And I was like, well, it's not going to happen. And this is why, and this is why, and this is why. And then she goes, hold on. And she gets off the phone, and within 20 minutes, she calls me back with like all these different references of people that I should contact to bring in these circus performers. And I was like, and right then and there, I went, okay, there's always a way. Sometimes you just need to figure it out. And that was a huge learning lesson for me, because I completely had limited this. Now, luckily, the hotel that we had reserved, their ceilings weren't high enough. So it didn't end up happening anyways. So I didn't have to and the liability and all that good stuff. But that showed me that, you know what? Like, with enough tenacity and determination and desire, there's a way. So there's a way for you to figure out the things that are tripping you up. And so I approach everything with that mentality and mindset now. And my husband probably like wants to kill me most of the time because of that. I'm like, are you sure? Like, have we considered this, and have we considered that? And what if we did this? Because I'm always just trying to figure out a way to make something happen. Of course, if it's worth it. So that brings me to point number 3. Number 3, I want you to write down your number one challenge with this business right now. Like, what do you honestly believe is your number one challenge? I want you to write that down. Now, I want you to write down underneath that, okay? Because this is like a legitimate thing of, an exercise that you can do with almost anything. So whenever I'm facing a challenge that I'm like, what? Like, I don't even understand how to tackle this, right? It seems so insurmountable. So we have to take the power out of it by first verbalizing it, putting it on paper. So whatever that number one challenge is, whatever you think it is, now I want you to write down 1 through 10, okay? Numbers 1 through 10. And you're going to come up with 10 different ways to solve that problem. All right, go. Anybody need more time? Anybody brave enough to share theirs? Like what your challenges and what are some of the solutions that you came up with? Okay, go ahead, Dad. Hang on a second. Wait.
Sorry.
Okay, now go.
Does that work?
Yep.
Okay. My number one challenge always has been not investing enough time in my business. I just have to have the time. Now, I got like 8 of the things. Number one is to start today. You got to start. Number 2 is make one contact. Instead of trying to do 20, just make one contact a week, just to get it started. Carving out my time. I've got to carve it out. I have to put it in my daily to-do list, ask someone a question about their health to see where they're at. Learn one product a week, because I couldn't just spill them off of my tongue, and be specific on the time of the day that I'm going to do my business. And I should start posting what am I doing now with my with my activities, filling up my day. So then I can start going, okay, if I'm going to spend 15 minutes doing this, I can spend 1 minute doing something for my business.
Yeah.
That's all I could get.
This is where I learned how to be an entrepreneur, by the way, from my dad.
Thanks, honey.
And the positivity, and learned who Zig Ziglar was. I was like, God, Dad, can you turn that off? Anyways, it all brainwashed me in a good way. Anybody else want to share theirs? I love it. Do you feel like it was a good exercise? Did that help? So every time, you get it, like one of these things that just keeps coming up, and like, I know for me, I was just like, I just can't figure out how do I have time, and how do I this, and I kept like writing all these goals, and it took 6 months of writing all these goals, but I kept coming back to, but I can't figure out how to have enough time. And this was when Luke was only, I don't know, he was around like 6 months old or something like that. And or maybe a year old. And that's when I'm like, the only way, and it came crystal clear to me, I'm like, the only way for me to make all these things happen and for me to get more time, because no matter what I tried wasn't working, is I have to pay for somebody to come and watch him a couple hours a day. And that's ultimately what we did. We brought somebody into the house 5 days a week. It was like 2 hours, but it was the only way I could get anything done. But that's what came true. I just kept going, like, how can I fix this? How can I fix this? And I tried all these other ways. And ultimately that's the only thing that worked, because I have zero ability to focus if my children are around, like none. They have to be out of the room. I can't think straight. All right. I'm so excited. Any questions, comments before we close? Yes. Hang on. Let me unmute you. Okay. Wait. For some reason, I can't unmute you. You think you need to unmute yourself, Mom?
Is that Mom?
Yeah. Tech support.
This was a really good.
My mom recently, not even about 6 months ago, had massive back surgery. So she's finally coming back into the game here. So happy to see you, Mom.
There we go.
Yeah.
I think I think you can hear me now, right? I think the most interesting thing I found is when I started out with number 1 through 5, it took me 5 of them before I started getting really positive and knowing that I could do some of this. So I think this is very, very helpful. That's all I wanted to say.
Awesome. Were you going to say something, Scott?
Oh,
I was just going to say almost the exact same thing. This was a super helpful call. I was here the whole time typing in my phone notes. So thank
Oh,
you.
cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you guys. I want to close with a quick quote if I can find it. Here it is. It says, real confidence just means you believe in your ability to figure things out. Like that's confidence right there, right? You just need to believe in your ability to figure things out, and you're going to figure it out. And I think that just goes so much with this. So when you find yourself like up against the wall or like, I can't figure this out, put it on paper, come up with a ton of ways that you can figure it out. Even if one of those things says, Google it. Google, how do I figure out how to? But you will. You guys, I am so proud of each and every one of you. Thank you for being on live. Of course, I'll post up the recording. And yeah, thank you guys so much. We'll see you next time. Have a good one.
Bye.
Take care.